It started with a single sentence on live TV, and then all hell broke loose. Dan Orlovsky mid-broadcast, sitting in his usual ESPN seat with that "I've watched the film" confidence, looked dead into the camera and said, "Dillon Gabriel looked better on tape than Shedeur Sanders." Pause. Rewind. What? Because unless we all hallucinated Gabriel throwing a pick six, fumbling in the red zone, and looking visibly overwhelmed in his NFL debut.
If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed.
That statement didn't just raise eyebrows, it ignited a firestorm. Meanwhile, across the country, Shedeur Sanders was calmly finishing his post-game press conference. No turnovers, 2 touchdowns, calm under pressure, and a stat sheet that screamed NFL ready. But on ESPN, crickets. Orlovsky had decided Gabriel was the better story, and just like that, a new quarterback controversy was born. Not on the field, in the media. And what followed was one of the most heated, uncomfortable, and necessary debates ESPN has seen in a long time. Because this wasn't just about 2 rookies. This was about who gets the benefit of the doubt and who gets picked apart. Let's break it down. Dillon Gabriel's debut? Objectively rough. He came out swinging, literally. First series, pick six. Not a miscommunication, not a tip ball. A clean throw directly into a defender's hands, who said, "Thank you very much," and jogged into the end zone. Later, in the red zone, fumble. Ball security went out the window. He looked jumpy in the pocket, missed open reads, and kept trying to play hero ball like he was still in a Big 12 shootout. And sure, he had a couple of nice throws in the second half. Some flashes of pocket mobility. But overall, not a good debut. Now let's talk Shedeur. Poised, calculated, efficient. From the opening snap, he looked like he belonged. Read through progressions. Made adjustments at the line. Slid in the pocket like he had been doing it for years. Touchdown pass in the second quarter? Perfect placement. Game-winning drive? Ice in his veins. And, just to really drive the point home, 0 turnovers. This wasn't even a debate. It was a clinic versus a crash course. But Orlovsky, he sees it differently. And not just that, he goes out of his way to explain why Gabriel actually impressed him more on tape. His reasoning? The tight ends didn't separate. The offensive line gave him trouble. The receivers didn't finish routes. Excuses lined up like dominoes, and not one of them pointed back to the quarterback. And that's where things exploded. Because Dan's not just making a film room case. He's making a narrative. And in real time, fans, analysts, and players themselves could see what was happening. Shedeur Sanders played better football. Period. But the media spin? It was trying to make Dillon Gabriel the more impressive QB because he tried hard under pressure, fought through adversity, showed flashes of potential. Enter Stephen A. Smith. He was not having any of it. The next day, on First Take, he lit the match. "I've had enough," he said, slamming the table like he was lecturing a room full of rookies. "This is what we do now. We crown a man who threw a pick six and fumbled, while ignoring the other quarterback who actually showed up and performed. I'm sorry, but we are not about to start rewarding failure and calling it potential just because someone else is playing cleaner football and not fitting into a tired media mold." It was one of those moments where the energy shifted. Because Stephen wasn't just debating Orlovsky. He was calling out a pattern. A pattern where certain quarterbacks get all the grace in the world, all the benefit of the doubt, all that he just needs time. While others, they get overanalyzed, underappreciated, and talked about like they're already nearing their ceiling. And everyone watching, they felt it. Because this has been happening for years. Think about it. How many rookie QBs with messy games get described as gunslingers, raw talent, or unpolished but promising? Versus how many get boxed in as inconsistent, system-dependent, or needs to prove he can handle the pro level? And now, Shedeur Sanders is getting that treatment. Even after a near-flawless debut, people started comparing quotes. Gabriel gets "the offense needs to gel." Shedeur gets "we need to see more reps against top defenses." Gabriel gets "promising flashes." Shedeur gets "can he keep this up?" It's subtle. It's coded. but it's real. And it didn't take long for Twitter, sorry, X, to catch on. Within hours, hashtag let them play and hashtag Shedeur was better started trending. Clips of Shedeur's pinpoint passes were stacked side by side with Gabriel's turnovers. Memes started flying. Orlovsky got roasted online, not just for his take, but for what it represented. The media's blind spot. Some were blunt about it. If Shedeur Sanders was named Shane McCarthy, ESPN would be running segments on whether he's the next Mahomes. Harsh? Maybe. But not exactly unfounded. Because let's be real, Shedeur isn't just another quarterback. He's Deion's son. He's already had to fight through the media noise. That he's only here because of his dad narratives. The HBCU isn't real competition nonsense, and every other gatekeeping comment disguised as analysis. And now, even after proving himself at every level, the goalposts are still moving. He doesn't just have to be good. He has to be undeniable. Meanwhile, Gabriel, he can throw a pick-six and get praised for how he bounced back emotionally. That's the frustrating part. It's not that Gabriel had a bad game. Rookies struggle. It happens. But the disconnect in coverage? That's what sparked the fire. Analysts didn't just cover for Gabriel. They elevated him over a clearly better performance. And suddenly, it wasn't about football anymore. It was about bias. About who gets patience, who gets praise, who gets the endless narrative cushion, and who has to earn every ounce of credibility. Even some former players stepped in. Richard Sherman tweeted, "The media does this all the time. Shedeur balled out and gets wait and see. Gabriel struggles and gets he'll figured out." How does that make sense? And here's the thing about Cleveland. When they believe in someone, they go all in. This isn't one of those cities with fair weather fans or polite golf claps in the stands. These are the same fans who stuck around through Johnny Manziel's chaos, Baker Mayfield's inconsistency, and an actual parade thrown for a winless season. So when Shedeur Sanders walked into town and immediately injected life into the stadium, real life, not maybe this could be our year optimism, but actual belief, the people of Cleveland didn't just take notice. They felt it. It was different. There's an energy to a quarterback who owns the moment. You can't coach it. You can't fake it. And you definitely can't suppress it just because it doesn't fit neatly into your preseason plan. But Kevin Stefanski seems to be trying. And that's the part that's making fans furious. Because it's not just that he's favoring Gabriel. It's why he's doing it. Loyalty? Maybe. Caution? Probably. Ego? Almost certainly. Let's not sugarcoat this. Stefanski is a system guy. He likes things clean, predictable, executable. And Shedeur Sanders? He's none of those things. He's a playmaker, a commander. He thrives in chaos. He improvises like he's conducting jazz in cleats. He brings the flash and the fury in equal measure. And for a coach who built his career on precision and repetition, that's terrifying. But guess what? Safe football hasn't worked here. You want to talk safe? The Browns have been playing it safe for decades. They've passed on stars, let leaders walk, and built entire seasons around hope instead of heat. And right now, Shedeur is the heat. Stefanski is watching a fire start to build on his sideline, and instead of stoking it, he's trying to contain it with a wet towel of post-practice quotes and conservative play calling. And Browns Nation? They're done being patient. You think fans are going to sit quietly while Shedeur's name trends nationally, while his jersey becomes the best seller in the NFL, while ESPN opens every segment with clips of him spinning defenders and threading needles, and still see him stuck on the sideline? Not a chance. Already, you've got sports radio in meltdown mode. Callers going off on Stefanski. Journalists asking loaded questions at pressers. How long is Shedeur going to be developing while we lose winnable games? You can feel the divide growing. On one side, Stefanski and the staff clinging to process. On the other, the entire city of Cleveland screaming, "Give the kid the keys." And don't think the locker room doesn't feel it too. Because let's be real, players talk. And when a guy comes in, earns respect instantly, performs under pressure, and energizes the fan base like a lightning rod. You think other players don't notice that? Shedeur may be a rookie, but he's not walking in like one. He's walking in like a CEO. And when that kind of presence gets benched for developmental reasons, players start whispering things like, "Why are we playing politics when we could be playing to win?" And yeah, maybe Stefanski thinks he can weather the storm. Maybe he believes if Gabriel just improves a little, just shows some spark, the noise will die down. But that's the delusion of a coach trying to win a power struggle he can't afford. Because this isn't just a depth chart issue anymore. It's existential. If Shedeur Sanders isn't starting by week 3, if he's not the face of this franchise by October, then Stefanski isn't just risking a couple of L's. He's risking his legacy. Think about it. This is a franchise defined by missed moments. Drafting Tim Couch over Donovan McNabb. Letting Belichick walk before he became a dynasty. Wasting Joe Thomas's entire career in offensive line purgatory. And now, when they finally get a quarterback with the look, the talent, the poise, and the power to redefine the entire organization, you're going to bury him behind a guy who threw for 112 yards and 2 turnovers in a preseason game? It's not just short-sighted. It's criminal. And here's what's even more frustrating. You know Stefanski sees it. You know he hears the buzz. He's not blind. He's just stubborn. He thinks he's protecting Shedeur, easing him in, letting the moment be earned. But this moment? This is the moment. You don't ease into a thunderstorm. You lean into it or get washed away. And right now, the clouds over Stefanski are starting to swirl. Already, ownership is reportedly watching closely. Because it's not just wins and losses anymore. It's optics. It's brand. And let's be honest, Shedeur Sanders is very good for business. TV ratings through the roof. Merch flying off the shelves. National coverage every single day. You think Haslam's going to sit back and watch the guy saving his franchise's relevance ride the bench? Please. If this continues, it's only a matter of time before someone from upstairs makes the call Stefanski won't. Because it's not just a quarterback controversy. It's a full-blown organizational identity crisis. Are the Browns still the team that plays it safe and dies slowly? Or are they finally ready to be something else? To be dangerous? To be electric? To be a problem? And right now, there's only one man on the roster who can deliver that. Shedeur Sanders. So Kevin, you've got a choice. Stick to your script. Ride or die with the process. Protect your ego. Hold on tight to Gabriel and hope no one notices the season slipping away. Or wake up. Feel the pulse of the locker room. Hear the roar of the fans. See the future staring you in the face. And let it play. Because Cleveland's not asking anymore. They're demanding. This is your shot to make history. Or become a footnote in it. And in this town, legends are made by the ones who dare. And the clock is ticking. Because this isn't just a QB controversy anymore. This is an identity crisis. This is Cleveland, standing at yet another crossroads in a long, painful history of what-ifs and almosts. It's déjà vu, but with the stakes higher than ever. And at the center of it all, a coach hanging on to his philosophy like it's a life raft, while the city around him is screaming for change. Shedeur Sanders isn't just a quarterback. He's a cultural shift. A new chapter. He walks in with charisma, precision, command, everything that says face of the franchise, and not in the cliché, overhyped, training camp way. No, this guy has already moved the needle. And here's what should terrify Stefanski the most. It's not just fans who are starting to whisper. It's the building. Front office execs? They're not blind. Ownership? Watching the ratings, the merchandise sales, the national spotlight shifting onto Cleveland in August. Do you know how rare that is? This is a preseason story making national waves. And not because of Stefanski's game plan. Because of Shedeur. Now, imagine what happens if they squander that moment. Imagine going back to Gabriel under center in week 1, and he sputters. Throws an early pick. Fans in the stands holding up put in Shedeur signs. The camera cuts to Sanders on the sideline, helmet on, stoic. But you know he's thinking, I'm ready. And fans know it too. They've seen it. This isn't the kind of fan base you can gaslight, either. They've been through everything. They've watched glowing press conferences, heard all the we like what we've seen in practice soundbites, and sat through game after game waiting for the next breakout guy to not fumble the moment. And then Shedeur walks in. doesn't blink, delivers. And suddenly, it's like the fog lifted. You want to go back to Gabriel after that? Good luck. And again, this is not a smear campaign on Dillon Gabriel. He's not the villain here. He's a decent player trying to find his footing. But the Browns don't need decent. They need different. They need a spark. They need someone who doesn't just manage the moment, they own it. And right now, the only person doing that in Cleveland is wearing number 2 and answering post-game questions like he's been in the league 5 years. That's not just talent. That's presence. That's leadership. That's franchise quarterback energy. And Stefanski? He's treating it like a distraction. You can feel the tension building. Every media session turns into a war of subtext. Stefanski gets asked about Sanders, and his tone tightens. "We like our rotation," he says. "It's a long season." Coach speak for, "I'm not ready to admit what everyone else already sees." Meanwhile, Shedeur keeps showing up, doing the work, winning the room one day at a time. No outbursts. No Twitter shade. Just surgical throws, sharp reads, and an aura that says, "Yeah, I'm built for this." The locker room sees it. Coaches might pretend to be above it, but players? They know who's got it. You can't fake that. You can't coach it. And when they huddle up, guys are already starting to lean toward the one voice that makes them believe they can win. And if Stefanski can't feel that shift happening, he's more out of touch than we thought. There's a reason the crowd goes nuts every time Shedeur takes the field. Not polite golf claps. Roars. This isn't just a city showing up for a novelty. They're begging for salvation. And they're sick of being told to wait while the process plays out. Because guess what? The process is broken. If it weren't, the Browns wouldn't have cycled through more quarterbacks than fast food chains in the last 20 years. If the process worked, they wouldn't have to rely on fluke wins or mid-season collapses from their rivals just to sneak into playoff contention. No, the process needs to change. And Shedeur Sanders is that change. But only if the people in charge are willing to get out of the way. And that's what this has become, an ego thing. Stefanski is clinging to structure, loyalty, a belief that his guy will figure it out. But at what cost? How many weeks are you willing to waste before reality forces your hand? Because fans won't wait. Not this time. They've been burned too many times before. If Gabriel trots out in week 1 and throws another pick-six, the boos will rain down before halftime. And it won't just be about the interception. It'll be about the choice, the conscious decision to sideline something special out of stubbornness. And once that happens, once you lose the crowd, there's no coming back. That's when you start hearing things like lame duck coach. That's when the whispers from the front office turn into closed-door meetings. That's when ownership starts taking a very close look at who's building the future and who's holding it back. Because let's be honest, the Browns aren't in rebuilding mode. They're in relevance mode. They've got pieces. A top 10 defense. Playmakers on offense. A fan base hungry to believe. All they need is the spark. And they have it. Sitting right there. Helmet on. Ready. The question is, will Stefanski be the guy smart enough or humble enough to let it happen? Because if he doesn't, he's not just gambling with wins and losses. He's gambling with legacy. No one remembers the coaches who played it safe, who followed the script, who went with steady instead of special. People remember the ones who had vision, who trusted their gut, who handed the keys to the kid everyone was waiting on and said, "Go drive this franchise into the future." Shedeur Sanders is that future. And Kevin Stefanski? He's almost out of time to realize it.